This is the Wheel of Time podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and this time we're talking about the Wheel of Time Season 2, Episode 6, Eyes Without Pity.
Do you want to know who created the Adam?
A monster.
She was a sister of your White Tower.
I said I don't have slaves.
What did you do as a novice? They want to curb your power, you know that. To waste your life on parlor tricks. We, Shan, want you to use your power to the fullest extent, the way you were born to.
No woman can have power with a collar on her neck.
Oh, Egwene. You are not a woman. You are a demone, and a powerful one. I hope they told you at your White Tower just how special you are.
Welcome back, fellow wheelies. It is I, Chris, and you're listening to the Wheel of Time podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about episode 6 of season 2, the one and only Eyes Without Pity. And I only have eyes for you. I'm back, and I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, who I only have eyes for too.
Oh,
Yes.
very nice.
I only have eyes for you, boys.
Thanks, buddy.
I can't see right now because I don't have glasses on, but I only have eyes for you.
I'm sure your wife will be delighted to hear that. I'm one of your co-hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow wheelies. I am your third and final host, John.
I'm so glad to have Chris back this week. I did our homework that we should have done before Wheel of Time series began. The first Wheel of Time book came out in 1990. So, no, there was no inspiration taken from the Wheel of Time for Nightmare on Elm Street. It was definitely after that. So, a much later series than we thought. We thought they came out in the 70s and continued throughout the 80s. But first book in 1990, apparently.
Okay, very good.
There you go. So, way beyond what we
Record
thought.
corrected.
Yes. So, Chris was actually reading them at the time they came out. Yeah? You were waiting between
Yeah,
books.
I was waiting for the final. I read the last 5 as they came out.
Right.
Very good.
I remember reading the first 2 or 3. The first few were I could block book them.
Yeah.
And then it was definitely the last few I was eagerly waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a long stint after poor old Robert Jordan died,
Yeah.
and we didn't know who was if it was taking over, if it was going to just be abandoned,
Yeah.
whatever. And then Brandon Sanderson came in with after Jordan's wife gave him the outline and the book, and then that got split into 2 books.
Yes.
And we were like, oh my god, it's happening. It was like the Game of Thrones finale, but for book readers.
Mm-hmm.
And split into 2 seasons. We're
Right.
like, oh my god, it's happening. Yeah, it's happened. What's gonna happen?
So the
oh my
opposite.
god, it's book 2. Yes.
So the opposite of what happened with Game of Thrones, where it was cut down into a really short season and satisfied a lot of us fans, but a lot of other fans wishing that it had been spread across 3 or 4 seasons. So opposite way around. I do love your turn of phrase, though, Chris, that you block booked them. That's really good as a description of reading your first set of Robert Jordan books.
Yes. I'm block booking. I actually do have the completed sets now, which
Right.
come in books of 3, and they're in blocks. So I have block books of the Wheel of Time.
I like it. Good stuff.
Don't forget, we have our Wheel of Time Tavern quiz coming up later in this episode. And yes, we will be asking you to put on your thinking cap, give us the answer to this question, and then gather together all the answers from the 8 questions and email them to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com at the end of the season to get your hands, or to be in with a chance to get your hands on some Wheel of Time goodies. Don't forget, if you also really enjoy what we do, head on over to tvpodcastindustries.com and you can subscribe on each of the platforms and follow us there and get all the fun and games there. or you can send us your feedback to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And you can also head on over to facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries, where you can leave us your thoughts there as well. We have a spoiler post for each and every episode that we're covering. I think I said feedback too many times there. So feedback.
Yeah, and we also have a Blue Sky account now. If you want to follow us over on Blue Sky, you can follow us as TV Pod Industries. Same handle as Twitter. Blue Sky seems to work exactly the same as Twitter, except a lot fewer political debates and a lot fewer people on it. So come over and follow us there if you have an account over in Blue Sky.
Yes, absolutely.
Derek, do you want to tell us what they gave us for this episode?
Absolutely, yes. Of course, this series is based on the book series by Robert Jordan. The showrunner for the show is Rafe Lee Judkins, and this episode, once again, directed by Maya Vervillo, who directed episode 5. This episode was written by Rami Park. She's been a staff writer on the show all the way throughout Wheel of Time Season 1 and into Season 2, and was the writer of the Wheel of Time Origins shorts on Prime Video X-Ray, the ones that add all the detail of the universe of the Wheel of Time. They were really good. So delighted to have Rami Park on board for such a big episode.
Yep.
I'm hoping they do a few more of those this season towards the end.
Yeah, there's quite a few. It's just weird because the X-ray is only available when you watch on your laptop or on your
it's
on your
so
PC.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't get it on any of the apps. You can only see them there. So there are some behind the scenes stuff. There's some other background stuff that's there. Obviously, with the writer strikes, that kind of thing. These are all pre-recorded quite a long time ago. So yeah, hopefully there'll be more background stuff on Wheel of Time delivered there. But definitely go check those out if you didn't check them out when they're out in Season 1. They're really, really good. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for The Wheel of Time Season 2, Episode 6?
Sure. In the dream world, Lanfear tries to convince Rand to join her by promising to protect him from Ishamael, while Rand asks her to prove that they at least had a connection from the previous months together when Lanfear posed as Selene. Lanfear accepts by showing him that Egwane is imprisoned in Falme, and provided one condition is met. He must abandon Moiraine, otherwise she will kill Moiraine if she ever sees them together again. Rand leaves Moiraine and prepares to leave Cairhein for Falme to rescue Egwane. At the same time, Matt and Min arrive in Cairhein, and Rand and Matt meet in the foregate, catching up on their adventures. Rand tells Matt that Egwane has been captured in Falme, and they agree to go off together. But Min warns Matt that Ishamael intends for him to go to Falme with Rand, where he may try to kill Rand. This causes Matt to avoid leaving with Rand, who starts off to Falme on his own. Before he can leave Cairhein, he is intercepted by Lan, Alanna and her warders, who tell him that they can't let him leave, while at the same time, Swan-Shan, the Amyrlin seat, who arrived in Cairhein with Lan, summons Moiraine for an audience after Lan warns the Amyrlin of Moraine's actions and the Dragon Reborn. Back in Falme, Rhaena, a Sul'dan, begins the ritual to break Egwene and make her understand that she is not a woman, not an Aes Sedai, only a Daman, a magic user who needs to be leashed and controlled by Rhaena through the Adam, a collar used to control Daman. Rhaena begins to slowly ramp up physical and psychological torture to break Egwene. Elsewhere in the city of Falme, Nynaeve and Elaine are in hiding with Rima, an Aes Sedai, and her warder, Basan. As they pass the hours away confined indoors, they try to understand a stolen Adam collar to rescue Egwene. But in the channeling of the One Power, Nynaeve channels too much during their attempts to open the collar, giving their location away to the Senshan, who come for them. Rima and her warder fight the Senshan to protect Elaine and Nynaeve, but Basan is killed and Rima is captured and collared.
Yes, she is.
She's certainly, this is really quite a heavy episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the performances here, when you think of having to get into that mindset, whether it's Egwene and even Rhaena, with all those scenes in the cell, or I think Rima as well, fighting with her warder. I mean, there's some really good stuff in this episode.
Absolutely.
Just really good acting.
Yeah, I felt so far this season, because, you know, Egwene is such a powerful character, I felt so far this season that she's been a bit in the background, hasn't really reached the potential that she expected to reach when she got to the White Tower. But Madeline Madden in this episode just does such an amazing job of that. The torture that's going on, the pain that she's going through, not just physically, but also the mental torture that she's going through. She just performs it so well. It's a tough episode, but it's great that we're getting these moments for Egwene. It's horrible to watch. Sorry, that sounded really bad. It's horrible to watch, but it's great that Madden is getting these moments, because they're great moments for her to have.
Yeah, I mean, for me, she knocked it out of the park. It was so kind of real, and visceral. And I mean, you know, you say that quite a lot, but I mean, I guess, you know, as an actor sort of preparing to do torture scenes as the tortured, but even as the torturer, you know, and I guess, you know, such a great name for the episode, Eyes Without Pity. Yeah. Okay, you know, for me, that is absolutely, Renna encapsulated here. And, really good.
Yeah. On the acting part, at least sometimes with other torture scenes when there's no magic involved, like you got like, oh, your hand's in a vice, and they put a fake vice on. Yeah. Here, Madeline had to contort herself to make it look like she was being kind of broken by the power. And like, then when she was hung. Yeah. Like, and she should pretend like she's choking. The level of detail in the, for just even some of the cuts and the bruising, like they gave her full on red eyes, like that she's popped blood vessels in her eyes, those contacts that made it look like, you don't usually see that now. Yeah. That they progressed it over time to show that she was being beaten and abused by the power so much that it was just like popping blood vessels.
Yeah, and she's fighting back against it as well. Both those things really encapsulated in those scenes.
But we have a lot of that to talk about, and probably more. But we'll jump in straight away to our spokes for this episode. And I think probably start with some of the lighter stuff. We'll start with spoke number 1, Rand in the Land of Dreams.
It sounds like lighter stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It does sound like lighter stuff. I mean, at least we had tops off at Rand al'Thor. That was some light relief, I have to say. And
as we were talking about before the podcast, though, completely unattainable body image.
Yeah,
I guess, but obviously not, because he's got it.
Yeah.
For these
me,
scenes,
it just looked like the big scene where we've heard like Hugh Jackman talk about that scene in Logan, where he basically had to take his top off, and he prepared for like 3 weeks for that scene. He bulked up, he cut
roast chickens for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Exactly.
Yeah, and like then on the day you don't drink water, but you've drank like 20 liters the day before, and you're not allowed to go to the bathroom that day, but you just have to prep so much for this one scene.
Yeah,
that sounds like torture.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
But that's what like Hugh Jackman had really gone into. It's like it's tough to be that cut all the time. Like you prepare for that. Okay, we're gonna have this one scene. We need you to look top shape, and then you can go to the ice cream parlor and gorge yourself after. But I think that's kind of what we see here. Rand is torturing himself.
I think he looks a little more attainable though, because he's kind of not bulky. Do you know? I guess he's a little kind of more svelte looking. But
but it's still. Yeah. I guarantee the actor does not look like that on any other day of the year that is for this scene.
I guess. But it's not to say he suddenly turns out with a beer belly and some moves.
No,
but
that's
I mean,
that's me.
Quite
that's
frankly,
where basically, that's where he puts on a mask of weaving and deception in front of him and looks like me.
Absolutely. And again, this is the world of dreams, so maybe he doesn't look like that in real life either. So.
Well,
but let's talk about the actual
scene.
To be
Lanfear, that's all I say.
Yes.
A really interesting moment here as he's entering the Land of Dreams with Lanfear, and has been told by Moiraine to effectively get as much information out of her as possible by pretending that there is some kind of relationship there. I like that Lanfear picks up on that almost immediately. She says to him, "Are you going to pretend that we had a relationship?" And notices very quickly that he's calling her Lanfear, not Selene. Instantly, she knows the reaches of Moraine's influence on Rand here. She knows absolutely, well, you know my name now, so definitely Moiraine's got her claws into you. So she makes the deal that she will help him out. She will work alongside him and maybe give him information on Ishamael, but only if he cuts off that relationship with Moiraine.
Yeah. I mean, I find this really interesting, and it links in with, with Ishamael and just the whole conversation that Lanfear says, that, she says she's been protecting him over the last few months, in his dreams from, Ishamael. And Ishi, as she calls him. I quite
Ishi.
like that touch.
No, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Give evil a fun name. So she set herself up that, she is protecting, and I mean, to Moiraine's point, that she didn't kill him during this time.
Exactly.
So, you can see that there's the manipulation of Lanfear here, because Ishamael's plan is to get Rand to Falme, and in the gift of a dream that she does give to Rand, to prove that something mattered in those months while, he was her lover as Selene, he does choose to go to Egwene, but it's pertinent because that's where he learns that she's in Falme. So Lanfear, I find really interesting, because it's down to something she says to Liandrin, where she says, there are many ways to walk in the night, in terms of once you've become a dark friend, you don't need to follow Ishamael. And yet she is prepping Rand here as part of that wider Ishamael's plan.
Yeah.
And at the same time as well, here, I think, how much suspicion does she have that Rand is trying to play her? I think she does have that. There are just some of those looks. But I feel she thinks she's got the upper hand at this moment. And I kind of just liked all that sort of conjecture of who's got the upper hand in this world. I really thought it was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you brought up that scene with Liandrin. What you're supposed to take from that is, while it's also partially kind of blended with the scene with Lan and the Forsaken. Like, there's 12 Forsaken. They are the generals, as called by Lan, of the Dark One. Like, they're his commanders in chief.
Yeah.
They're theoretically a circle. They're a council of Forsaken and Dark Ones. They're all different generals. So their goal is to do what the Dark One wants them to do, which is bring him back, set him free, do all that. But Ishi is the lead, but they are they're not afraid to stab each other in the back to become the favored one of the Dark One.
Absolutely.
And that's what we start to see here with Selene, with Lanfear, that sure, she's going to try and quote unquote help Ishi, but she's going to do it her way. And if she can, Ishamael will look bad and she'll get the win, because she's going to have plans within plans. She was a master manipulator. She's been skulking in people's dreams for a year, for months. So she's going to basically get Rand there based on her way of wants to do what she wants him to do versus what Ishamael wants him to do in Falme.
Yes, and that's what I do really like about this scene with Ishamael. We saw a little bit last week when Lanfear and Ishamael have that discussion within the realm of dreams, where she's saying, you're getting quite good at this now. This week it is very much, hang on a second, this is my manipulation tool. Get out. It's like, you can't come into his dreams if he doesn't want you here, right? Click fingers and off he goes. I thought it was really good. And again, exactly as you say, Chris, it's like her stamping her authority, going, hang on a second, I know you're a lieutenant. I'm also a lieutenant here, and I want to be the number one, and I'm going to use all of my manipulation abilities. One of the other things I really liked about her is that she also underlines the fact that she totally is talking to the Dragon Reborn. For me, having not read the books, it always felt like Rand is the Dragon Reborn, which just means he has a prophecy that says he's going to do one of two things. Whereas she's very much talking to him as if, this is my former boyfriend who died before, and now he's been reincarnated as you, Rand. You're very similar. She keeps calling out some of the things he says do sound like Luz, the former Dragon Reborn. So I thought that was quite interesting in those conversations. She's still seeing through Rand. She's seeing her past partner.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And I think as well, it's just, this whole thing, it's that classic, obviously we're dealing with the Star Wars at the moment, but it's that classic, the Dark One, making sure that there is, dare I say it, healthy competition amongst his lieutenants so that they don't all just join up and sort of try to overthrow him, a bit like the Emperor, sort of playing people off, one another in the Star Wars world. And it's classic kind of, sort of top level bad guy. And so, whilst they are competitive and have their own agendas. And I mean, like last week, Lanfear quite categorically saying, yes, I will betray you, to Ishamael. So, they're always having to look behind their back around one or the other Forsaken rather than, sort of eyes on the prize of the Dark One, of gaining more power or those kind of ambitions. So I really like this. And as I say, I think, it's just this neat thing that even though they are, as Lanfear said, walking many different paths through the night, ultimately though, it is leading to, Rand in Falme, along with Mat. They are singing from the same hymn sheet, at least for now.
Yeah.
Despite having the different sort of ways of going about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the interesting things I always find this is, like, all roads are converging to a point. And I saw someone say, and I'm not going to call her out because she's my partner, that she was like, oh, it's just so obvious that everyone's going to end up in this place. I'm like, it is. It's a prophecy.
Yes.
It's all based on prophecies. That the prophecy of the Dragon Reborn and the prophecy of the poem / prophecy of the daughter of the night coming back and who she is, the prophecy of X, Y, Z. In the books, they talk a lot about the prophecies and the cryptic messaging. It's not called out as much yet here. They'll probably get into it later. But it is that, like, yes, all roads are leading to these places and everyone's going to accidentally, not really, but kind of end up in a place. Yeah. So everything is going to Falme and everyone's going to be in Falme, but it's how they are kind of manipulated to go there or end up through luck or through chance ending up in Falme or through just different machinations. Yeah, everyone ends up in a singular place, similar to the finale of the last season. Yes. So Pat and Fane was in a certain place. They were all in a place. Yeah. Everyone was just converging in. Min lived in the wasted, the blasted lands, as well. Everyone was there at the end. Yes. So it's all just that kind of like, it's all very prophecy based, so it's all supposed to be that way.
Kind of, but exactly as we were saying in this point, what's probably really interesting about Lanfear here is that she's inserting herself in here to be the one that manipulates Rand to go there. While that is Ishamael's plan, that is the prophecy that he's going to end up there. But if she could take credit for that, that puts her in a higher standing, effectively. Yeah, so really like that.
And she is, subtly sort of turning Rand against Ishamael. Not that she has to do too much about it, but, she calls it out that, by pretending to be dead, it puts your friends in jeopardy and allows Ishamael to turn them to the dark, which he is trying to do. Yeah. In taking Rand to see Egwene in the dream world, she says that it is Ishamael that has them, and this is his doing, the predicament and the situation that Egwene is in. So,
and again, calling out, this happened before. The last Dragon Reborn had the same type of situation. Other friends around him that he thought would never turn on him, and they all turned on him.
Yeah, and turned on him. This is kind of part of, her subtly thinking to the future and the stabbing in the back of Ishamael as well, which I really like. It's just a question of whether Rand's friends, they have a different sense of friendship and loyalty, because yes, everything is saying, like with Mat potentially stabbing Rand in the back, with the ruby hilted, dagger, all this kind of stuff, it's just really good because it's that idea of the wheel, the breaking of it, fates, prophecies, all this, and to what extent maybe Rand and his friends as Ta'veren have the agency to alter that and change it and break fate or break a prophecy. You know?
Yeah. I was joking on our spoiler post that Matt doesn't seem to have very much screen time this season, and I thought this might be his episode since he's there in Cairhein, right there with Rand. He might get some screen time here, and a lot of that screen time is off screen. He meets up with Rand, and then it cuts back to them after Rand's explained the whole situation. They arrange to meet back up together. He talks to Min, and Min tells him he's going to be the one that will kill Rand, or at least that's what her prophecy has said. That's what she's seen in her visions. And Matt decides not to go with Rand and leave the city once again. So again, we've got Matt sidelined in this season.
Yeah, and I wonder how they're going to draw these threads. It's very interesting to see him just kind of skulk behind, waiting as Rand leaves for Falme, and doesn't actually, you just see him, watch him through the very small shed windows.
But I kind of like that scene because you do see the regret in his eyes. You can see that he wants to, but because of what Min has told him and you know, like, I think her last line to him is, you know, you will kill him. If he's your friend, you need to stay away. And so, you know, you can see that torment there as he's looking through those slats. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in our spoke two as well, we'll sort of go a bit further than that because ultimately Rand isn't leaving Cairhein anytime soon.
Yeah.
Or at least he doesn't by the end of this episode.
Exactly. Before we get on there, just one other thing to mention. I know you guys kind of called it out a little bit about the Lanfear and Liandrin moment, but I just thought it was absolutely amazing seeing another scene with Liandrin again. She's been such a standout star this season. But this moment here where Lanfear is telling her, this dedication you have to your son has led you to swear the oaths to the Dark One to keep him alive, but this isn't living, so I will put him out of his misery. But you can't take back the oaths that you've sworn to the Dark One. Yeah. You have to still stay on that side. You can walk a different path, but you can't unswear the oaths just because I'm going to kill your son in front of you, basically, which I thought was a really brutal arrangement, effectively, from Lanfear. She's saying, I'm going to take this away. He's holding you back. I'm going to kill him. But I know you swore your oaths to keep him alive, but...
The other really great thing in that moment with Lanfear and Liandrin is, you know, she absolutely calls out Liandrin's contradiction here. Mm-hmm. You know, as a red Arja, you know, men are nothing to her. You hear this, and yet she is committed to Ishamael and her son for obvious reasons. And Lanfear says, you know, this man is stopping you and holding you back in the same way that Ishamael and men in general are holding you back from your potential. You know, as she is taking and sucking the life out of her son.
You've dedicated yourself to the Dark One, not to Ishamael.
Yeah.
I can also take you to the same place, effectively.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, in that scene as well, Liandrin, the regret and sobbing of losing her boy is just really good. I mean, she's great.
Really, isn't she?
You know, again, another really great bit of acting here, which I just thought was really poignant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, and I think we're going to end up seeing, because again, we'll go into it now. She is there at the end, with the Amyrlin. So she's there now in Cairhein. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll see a lot of her next episode.
Yeah.
So I think, right, let's move on to our next spoke for this episode, which is the Amyrlin's back.
Yes.
And she's angry.
Yes, she is. This kind of plays off the scene with Lan in the episode. And I'm not sure I really understood it, but there's the earlier scenes where Lan is traveling with Alana and with her warders, Maxim and Ivan. They bed down for the night in the circle of dedicated to the Forsaken. And then there's this strange moment where Lan decides that he's going to leave, which I definitely understand. He wants to get back to the Amyrlin and wants to meet up and tell her what's happened to Moiraine. But they all stand in front of him saying that he has the potential to be a dark friend. and they're going to kill him where he stands unless they tell him everything he knows. Why is that? Did you guys pick that up?
So Moiraine had the poem, which was the poem talking about the prophecy of that was actually written onto the seal that held Lanfear. That was transcribed, given to Moiraine, and Lan stole it. Mm-hmm. And essentially, the way that the warders think is that he's a dark fiend. He's trying to get back to potentially Moiraine, who's a dark friend, and she's there with the Lanfear. She's released Lanfear. She's the one helping Lanfear.
Okay.
Because she's being secretive. He's being secretive, mm-hmm. not explaining the whole Dragon Reborn bit, because everyone knows they're hiding something.
Yes.
They just didn't know what.
Yeah.
Because it's getting obvious that, like, they're doing stuff. Also, Moiraine is still hiding that she's been stilled.
Yes.
That she has no access.
I just kind of thought that they were suspicious of just Lan, not Moiraine at all, actually. I thought they were just separating it out, kind of going, well, Moiraine separated herself from Lan, and Lan has this note in his pocket that we've stolen from him, and this note is calling on the fact that he's brought Lanfear back, potentially.
Yeah, I think in this moment, it's like, Alana, Ivan, and Maxim, it's kind of, you need to explain yourself because you've just not said anything. And the immediate thing here is you have the potential to be a dark friend, because of what they found, as Chris has said, the prophecy that they found in, Lan's, belongings.
Yeah.
So,
and I suppose also the fact that he lies to them to get the information as to where the Emerald seat is. So he tells them that it was her that banished him from the White Tower, and Alana knows that's not true.
Yeah.
So that adds that extra bit of suspicion.
Exactly.
But it does lead them to meeting up with the Amyrlin in quite a cool scene as she's traveling through the landscape, realizes that something's not going right outside of her carriage, and then creates that crown of daggers almost, which looks cool.
So cool.
Doesn't it?
The air. So this is one of the things I love about, and we see it every now and again. Like we saw Leandrin with her kind of sword of air, that they're able to kind of weave the air into almost a solid kind of looking weave.
Yeah, we see that later in this episode.
It's become, but razor sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of that in the book where they're like, well, we made a flaming sword, and one of them is this kind of, they crystallize the air weave into points of sharpness.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool.
It is really cool.
It's even cooler when they talk about the battles that happen with them.
Yeah.
Because you hear about like these like needles, 1,000, that kind of very anime style. It's like battle of 1,000 needles, and it's just like someone getting like punctured 1,000,000 times with these needles.
Or death by 1,000 cuts, as they say.
Yeah. So they do that, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see that now.
Absolutely.
On live action.
Yeah. And as we learned last season, the Amyrlin and Moiraine have a very, very close relationship. They are lovers. There's a lot of protection there from the Amyrlin for Moiraine. And this leads to the Amyrlin seat going to Cairhein and taking pretty much every Aes Sedai that we've met this season with her. I think it's 14, she says, that has been brought with her to Cairhein. So I think, John, you have your theory. I think you're absolutely right, but I'll let you share it, so I don't steal it from you, as to why there's 14 of them, and along with the Amyrlin going to Cairhein. Yeah,
well, I definitely think that it will be the Amyrlin that reconnects Moiraine to the One Power. I think here. Okay. Because, we've seen Aes Sedai still, like Legane. So, they do have the power to still in the same way that Ishamael has done to Moiraine.
And it had to be all of them working together to try and take down Legane with his power. So connecting Moiraine back to the One Power. That makes sense. I think I really like that theory. I just didn't want to steal it from you. That's all.
No, I'm guessing so. Unless they are going to carry this on with Moiraine being stilled with that and losing that connection, or there's another point somewhere in the future. But I guess this would be one of those opportunities that may play out. Who knows? But that she is sort of reconnected, unstilled from by the Amyrlin. Certainly, given that Lan, told her that they found the Dragon Reborn.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And this is the secret that the Amyrlin and Moiraine have had. You know?
And I know I haven't read the books, but my understanding is that Moiraine is never quieted and never stilled, at least during this period of the books. So this is a new thing for the show. So I presume she is going to be reconnected to the power.
Maybe. They do call out, the Andrin calls out the last time that 14 and the Amyrlin was when they installed a king on the Sun Throne.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so they're just going to stick Moiraine and make her become the true queen of Cairhein. They're not going to give her back her power as well.
Yeah. Now the thing, Logain wasn't stilled by the three sisters.
He was just contained. Yeah.
He was contained. He was shielded. It does take a lot more to still.
But he has been stilled.
He has been stilled now. Yes. We didn't see how many it took.
Right.
So the way I'm kind of reading it is that this is very much because they do. We've seen them connect circles. We saw it in the season finale of season 1, where they join and channel together as one.
Yeah.
So they connect.
We even saw that in this episode with them trying to look at the collar here. We saw 3 of the Aes Sedai in Falme working together in that way.
And again, whether they have a Tel'aran'rhiod or an Andriel that will heighten their use of the one power through the channeling. So there may be, you get the sense that the Amyrlin's seat anyway has a knowledge of things that are held within, the catacombs of Tar Valon and access to books around different things that normally, an average Aes Sedai, even a sitter, one of the top of the various different colours of Arja, that she knows more. So I'm guessing something like that might come to play here in this moment as well.
Yeah.
Very quickly, there's a bit we didn't talk about with Rand and Logain.
Yes.
Which is, Rand goes to Logain, goes, teach me how to channel, teach me the weaves now.
Makes him puke.
But the reason he pukes is because basically Logain says to Rand, take in power.
Yes.
Control the power. Take in. One very quick point on this quick point is, we've heard how when the women are channeling, it's about surrendering yourself to the power. You surrender, you become the flower, the bloom, things like that. Yeah. Here we hear Logain talking about, no, take the power, control it, grip it.
Yeah.
So there's a difference there between the male and female.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Rand takes in so much power. He burns bright.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so bright.
You can't even see him. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole point there is to show us how and he pukes. But he's so powerful.
Yes.
He is the Dragon Reborn. He is more powerful than any other.
Yeah. And as
we've seen.
Exactly. And as Logain says, he says, you don't need to understand how to access it and channel it. With that much power, you can do anything. I mean, that's what he says.
Yeah, and you don't need to worry about anyone.
But only if you
very
control
much what we're seeing here is the 14. I think they're going to try and the whole point is that they know Moiraine has found the Dragon Reborn, and if they don't like what he is about, they're going to try and still him there and then.
You get the impression from that scene, he is this core of a sun or a dwarf star, and it's just all these particles crashing together and releasing this huge energy, but it just happens. You get the sense, so there's no sense that he can control it. It's almost like he's just this bomb waiting to explode.
Absolutely.
He's got to take control. He's got to learn to master and whip the control back from the power.
Yeah. So 2 very different theories there. One, that the nice one, that we're going to get Moiraine powered. The other one, that Rand is going to be stilled by the 14 Aes Sedai. So 2 opposite theories there, interestingly.
Well, I don't think they'll do it. I think that's what they're going to try.
I think they're going to try and still Rand now. Thanks for that, Chris. And they won't do it because that would kind of end the story. And they will reconnect Moiraine back to the one power as their other option while they're there. So those are the 2 things that I think are going to happen. So good stuff.
But it'll be interesting if the theory of stilling Rand happens because of the scene between Moiraine and the Amyrlin seat in season 1. where they go off into the dream world, or through that picture,
Yes.
At the White Tower, and they talk, you know,
Go to the
that they
meeting
have
place.
been looking to find the Dragon Reborn and to not steal him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that will be another interesting point here.
Yeah. Excellent. That is the Amlin back, fully powered with all of our Aes Sedai around her. So very interested to see what happens in that next episode.
Yeah. One other quick thing is I know Rima didn't manage to get the letter sent about the Black Archer with that realization. But I think Verin also has realized that, you know, in her investigations in the last episode that there are Black Archer. So you hear her and the other Brown Archer in the library saying that can only mean that there are Black Archer present. So
Yes.
as well, in collecting this group, because Rima says that means that my sisters in the White Tower are in danger. In collecting these together, you know, is the Amyrlin herself aware of Black Archer operating in Tar Valon? Maybe even the suspicion that it's Leandrin, or has Verin, you know, off screen, unknown, already been to express those fears to the Amyrlin in some way. So, like, I just wonder if something like that might come into play here as well. I don't know.
Yeah, but it feels like that's something that we should see on screen, and we probably will see that next week. It looks like they're all meeting together in Cairhein, rather than meeting beforehand and traveling to Cairhein together. So that's the option there for Verin to actually speak to the Amyrlin in next week's episode, because I feel like that's quite a big point to just tell off screen to the Amyrlin that there are Black Aja at play here.
But I think it's around, you know, the mystery of the Black Archer as to whether they exist or not, as to maybe why it's being done like that. You know, it's almost like, is this real or mythical? It's like the unicorn or something. Yeah. So that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. We mentioned Rima there. Let's go on to our third and final spoke for this episode, because Rima is up in Falme, at effectively the site of the breaking of Egwane, which is our third spoke. Massively, this is the majority of the episode really is all about the breaking of Egwane. Such a big thing for a young Aes Sedai, someone who has the power of Egwane. And really early on, we hear that from Rene, the handler, that's telling her what is going to happen to her over the course of this process. She's saying to her that in turning a very powerful channeler like Egwane into a Daman, it is the most difficult thing to do, but also the most rewarding for someone like Rene. I do like that she starts out by saying to her that she's going to treat Egwane well. She believes that they can work together as a Suldam and a Daman, unlike other Suldam and Daman who torture their subjects. If this isn't torture, what Rene's doing to Egwane, can you imagine what the rest of them are going through?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it kind of breaks down, doesn't it? Because Egwane doesn't reciprocate that, because she immediately sees the jug of water as being a weapon to smash against Rena's head. So I think that's really interesting, because yes, that moment where she links with Egwane and she channels the power and she talks about this affinity that they have that's demonstrated between Egwane as the Daman and Rena as the Suldam, and the power in terms of setting that tree on fire.
Yeah.
And then going back to that simple task, which she then immediately follows up with, of pour me a cup of water, which she still can't do. And you get this really brutal, I mean, this is where it's physical, from Rena hitting Egwane, you know, kicking her, beating her, punching her, which really is this physical brutalization of her. You know, previously it's because she's had those thoughts where the power has, you know, given her, I mean, it's still Rena, it's still the situation, but because she can't hurt a Suldam, and any pain for a Daman will come back on her twofold. You know, it's almost like a hands-off thing, because it's been done through the power. Here, she goes hands-on because she realizes, in a sense, the worth of Egwane to her in this society. as well as trying to break her.
Yeah.
And it all kind of coalesces into this really violent moment where it gets hands on, from Rhaena, even though she's been torturing her previous to this. But it's like that moment. And I mean, it was really difficult to watch, as Rhaena hurts her.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was quite powerful, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head with like that literally word powerful.
Yeah.
Because aside from some kind of more Oscar chased or Oscar pointed kind of films about slavery in America or slavery in Africa, kind of those types of one, you don't see much kind of performances around the breaking of a person's will and spirit to regarding being a slave.
Yeah.
And seeing that here again, it's fantasy. I get that.
Yeah.
But the performance by the two of them is just so, I'll use your word, John, powerful. It's just, you're gripped by it.
Yeah.
In particular, like the scene I think about is the tree.
Yes.
Where she's taught to channel and show her power and show the joy of channeling and feeling that spirit, feeling the green and the moisture and the roots and everything, and then turned into a weapon, showing that she has to boil it. Like, she has no control on it. She's like, her Soldana is basically saying, no, you're going to boil it. You're going to turn it into fire and you're going to burn it to the ground.
And destroying the only thing that gave her solace throughout her captivity here. She's been looking out that window, seeing this tree grow outside, and she's being forced to destroy it. That's the other kind of element, the other bit of mental torture. And you're totally right, Chris. This is something you don't see very often portrayed on screen. And it instantly flashed me back to Star Trek The Next Generation with Patrick Stewart.
Definitely.
Do you see 4 lights or 3 lights with the Cardassians trying to pervert his mind and turn him into a slave for them? A really standout episode of The Next Generation. And this stands alongside it quite well, I must say. I think the performances here are fantastic. And yeah, it's just those rules around what a Daman will feel, that idea that if she tries to hurt the Soldam, she'll feel the pain twice over. If she thinks of anything as a weapon at all, she is not able to touch it, even if she's dying of thirst, as she is here after a couple of days in this cell. She cannot even drink water out of that jug herself until she gives up the notion that it could be used as a weapon. Just thought it was really well written out and really well portrayed. Excellent.
I think it's, and to that point of like the psychological, side of it, as well, in terms of destroying the only thing that gave her solace. It's also, when Rhaena says it's hard to think growing up that you're a person when you're in fact a Daman. It's like you forget everything, and it's like she says right at the end, you can never hurt me and you can never leave me, all this kind of loading of the physical and the psychological on Egwene. And I think the thing that I then love about this is that, it's peppered, at least with 2 points for me that are really kind of obvious. Not only just, Egwene's determination that she's going to get out of here, but you have Loial say, there is steel beneath that exterior. If anyone can survive this place, it is her. And
Egwene doesn't really survive the place. So as it stands at the end of the episode, so it does feel like Loial's statement that if she can be broken, anybody can be broken. And that ties in with that element that they twist that you see in a lot of these types of stories where she can hear another prisoner next door, and it turns out the prisoner next door is telling her to give up. The prisoner next door is recanting all of the things that Soldam has said to her, and we find out at the end, this is the sitter of the Blue Aja. This is someone that is one of the highest members at the White Tower who has been turned quicker than Egwene was. I really liked all those elements playing together to show you how destructive and torturous this process is.
Yes.
But even in that moment, so I totally get you, even that moment where, at least in the appearance of it, Egwene has been broken by Rhaena. and she pours that water into the cup, and then again, another psychological gut punch of it just being poured away. You know, I think this is where Madeline Madden's acting here is phenomenal, because once she leaves and she's drunk, from the jug, I'm there going, I still see the fight in her eyes, linking back to what Loyal says. So she's just really clever and strategic. So she is going to, you know, submit. It's kind of that notion of play dead when a bear comes at you so that you don't get attacked. Okay, I'm going to play dead here for my Sul'dam, because otherwise that's not going to get me anywhere. What I meant is I just felt in that face at the moment as she looks out before the blue sitter in the cell next to us, I felt just a steely determination and resilience that Loyal mentioned. I just thought that was really cool, because it gives you hope given all this crap that's been thrown at her in this episode. So, you know, I thought it was really, really good.
Absolutely.
You know,
I just want to quickly just talk that final scene. Like, literally, like you said, she's drinking the water and then you hear the voice mumbling. The way the audio is built in this is very good. You're not sure if it's actually a mumble, or that she's hearing things. Like, I turned it up and I was like, wait, is there something there? Because it was kind of indistinguishable kind of chatter, kind of that type of thing, mumbling. But then seeing that it is the sitter of as you said, the sitter of the Blue Ajah, one of the most powerful of her. And we had previously seen this character with Moiraine, telling Moiraine what to do. Like, she is no slouch.
Yeah.
And she's like, you lasted longer than me, child.
Yeah.
This is setting up that Egwene, well, we know she is powerful. Like, we keep getting told, everyone keeps talking about how powerful. She's not just powerful in body, in terms of her ability with the source. She's powerful in mind, that she lasted up until now. I think what John was getting to in terms of you still see that fight, I kind of agree and don't agree in that, like, what you really want is that she is broken. Like, she is now, for the next 60 to 70 minutes of this episode, next episode, she's broken, and then something rouses her to fight back and break her way out.
I know I'm the same. I wouldn't necessarily say I want to see her broken. I want to see the scars of what she's gone through.
Yes,
when
probably better way of describing it.
I'm not saying she's not broken and she's not hugely scarred from what she's been put through by Rhaena, but part of her still survives, and that's what you see there, and that's the hope for her. And, you know, God bless Rhaena, despite all her nastiness, when she hopefully can escape that collar, even though what we do hear from, you know, one of Rhaena's lessons is that the Adam, the Adam or the Edam, cannot be removed. And we hear by her, and we hear it was created by an Aes Sedai of the White Tower. So, you know, interesting little bit of information there. So I just wonder whether anything will play out from that little sort of kind of line. But I think the other side of it is, as well, you were talking about the music and that soundscape here. I absolutely loved how that final moment with Egwene, you know, as Rhaena is effectively hanging her up on a hook in her cell. Yeah. And it's cutting between that and the fight that Rima and her warder are having with the Senshan in Falme, in downtown Falme.
Fantastic.
It actually made both the fight scene and Egwene's torture really, really tense. And it you're kind of wanting them both to escape all of this. And in the end, both of them don't. And you have the tragedy of Rima being collared herself and the pain that inflicts after seeing her warder Basan being killed by, again, pointier, straight through the back from one of the Senshan. So I just found this, like, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. But not only that, she watches her warder die. She watches her warder die in the act of telling him, don't you let me get captured by the Shan Chain. You let me die here. You kill me. Yeah. You take me out. I cannot be quelled. I cannot have this collar put onto me. So that is in itself such a powerful moment, seeing another Aes Sedai quelled by the Shan Chan. There is that conversation that she has with Nynaeve and Elaine, where she tells them that 2 other Aes Sedai lost their lives, and the sitter of the Blue Aja has been taken by the Shan Chan, telling them how powerful these people are, while they're trying to work on the collar and work out a way to free Egwene. She's telling them, if you channel too much power in here, they're going to find us. So we need to be very careful about how we're working here. And she pays the price for Nynaeve not being able to control the power like that. Yeah. Nynaeve, again, is so powerful that it attracts the attention of the Shan Chan to this place, which has been an area where the Aes Sedai has lived for a fair while in secrecy.
Yeah. I mean, she's so powerful, but it's almost like she is the Rand of the Aes Sedai, in the sense that because she can't control it, it's like it floods from in intense emotional aspects. And I think what I really like about this is that Zoe Robbins, who plays Nynaeve, is just really good at sort of capturing that, but also even when she's not being asked to channel, Nynaeve is always on edge. It's like she's always, her eyes are always darting. She's always suspicious. She's always kind of other people, even Rima. And it's only in that moment when Rima is effectively quelled with the collar, that to me, you see Nynaeve realizing that actually she wasn't going to betray them. She wasn't going to, she is fighting for them. And because she's wanting to go out and help, and you have the objectivity, the clarity of thought from Elaine in that moment that we just can't. This is the saddest part about it, is that in order for us to save Egwene and potentially Rima now, we have to stay hidden. We can't give in to our urges, which is what Nynaeve always plays off. And in a lot of cases, that I always feel that this almost gut feeling that Nynaeve has, but it's not really a gut feeling. It's just suspicious, sort of broadly brushed across everyone. And certainly because she has been betrayed by Liandrin, who she kind of thought she was opening up to, sort of touches everything. I mean, even Elaine, I like how Elaine sort of cuts back at her in this, when Rima is saying, you need to get out of here. You need to tell and hand this note about Black Aja to the Amelin seat herself. And Nynaeve is like, well, Elaine, you take it. We can't have the heir apparent to Andor staying here in danger. And Elaine kind of, comes back and says, oh, now you call me the heir apparent, not the princess like you have been doing. And, she has to explain the reason she wants to help and save Egwene is because she is her friend, and she's never had one of those because she is an heir apparent.
Exactly.
Yeah. The one very small bit I wanted to talk about is the, Nynaeve does get a lesson here without knowing it, about kind of, it's very much a Yoda. Don't think, just don't try, just do.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's her way of embracing. Because at the moment, we've heard that she has a block. It's intense emotion is what allows her to kind of channel. But here what we see is that she was able to channel.
Yes, she
briefly
was.
By just letting go, not thinking about it, kind of just doing. Now, she didn't control it because it's just so much power, but she did learn to channel that small, brief bit. So there's a thing there, this is a kind of beginning of.
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose what was interesting about that was that Rima and Elaine were trying to work out the secrets of the Adan, and they needed a little bit more power from Nynaeve. She poured in a little too much power and instantly got the read of what the Adam is. She says that it is broken and can only be fixed when attached to a woman.
Yep.
She hasn't found the secret of how to open it, but she's found the secret of how it closes and how it traps the intended victim, I guess, of it, that it will feed off the the woman that it's put around the neck of, because that is its purpose and that is its only purpose. I thought that it made it feel like the Adam is a living device almost.
Well, Nynaeve says it's a Tel'aran'rhiod, again, one that channels the source. So
I love that they helped me out as a non-book reader and reminded me that the Tel'aran'rhiod are the arches, the things that are objects throughout this world that can all have different powers. So they called out that whole experience that Nynaeve went through was caused by the fact that she was going in these Tel'aran'rhiods, that some can be good, some can be bad, all have different things about them, but all of them are magic objects.
Absolutely.
So,
and they're actually, a lot of them in terms of their use have only come about from experimenting with them and losing a lot of people on the way to find out actually how they can use these objects. So, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Gentlemen, I think it's about time we break our spoke talk and move to any notes. Anyone have any notes for this episode?
I have one, just because, to be honest, Rosamund Pike and Lindsay Duncan, I could watch in a spin-off of House Damodred, to be honest. Again, I think, and again, so much great performances in this episode, but again, I just loved kind of this flip-flopping between Moiraine and Anna in terms of argument, make-up argument. And again, we have, I mean, in a sense, we see the arrogance of Moiraine here. I mean, you can see why she's not an easy person to like, when her sister challenges her simply because she was being an absolute nightmare to, her nephew, Balthanas, who absolutely adores her.
Yeah.
And, she says, I want you out of this house and city by tomorrow. And Moiraine just kind of retorting back, you live here at my good grace. I am the Damodred, and again, but it's just that sisterly kind of, family infighting, that Anna just goes back, because, you got none of what made him, their father, good. None of it. She kind of just emphasizes again, you are mother through and through. And it's just like, oh wow, this is proper family feud. Absolutely. Kind of trudging up the past. And like both of these actors, I just absolutely find them hypnotic in these moments that they've done now over the last 3 episodes. Whether it's even integral to the story, I don't know, because I think in the books I'm really only just at that point where Moraine's surname even, or real, I guess non-Aes Sedai name of Damodred has kind of cropped up.
Right.
And, this is just really lights my fire. I think these two are great. I'd love to, as I say, just see some kind of spin-off. House Damodred, the battle, battle royale.
I really liked it. And one of the things I kind of get from Moiraine is that she was kind of willing to let her sister just keep the house, keep the name, no problem, because she's going to outlive her by so many years that she could just walk back in and take over the house at any stage. So even though she's the heir to the house, she's effectively kind of going, yeah, you stay there, it's grand, no problem at all, you'll be dead probably in another 10 or 15 years and I'm still going to be just as young looking as I am right now and can walk back in and take over, but don't challenge me, you're here by my good graces, as she says. So I mean, good stuff.
Even where Anna says, about when her father was dying and he only wanted you, Moiraine, and you never came, even though we sent messages to the White Tower. What was so important? It's almost, you've abandoned this house, you've abandoned this family, you have no right here, and that's why she tells her to go. And in a sense, Moiraine just says, I have every right, exactly. And it's like, oh, Moiraine, you need a PR agent or something.
Absolutely.
I have one note, just a really fun one, which is the discussion with Lan and the Forsaken. Because when they take refuge, in a shrine to the Forsaken, and they drop in that, isn't it interesting? The Forsaken have powers that have been forgotten. They were able to do things that the Aes Sedai couldn't even imagine now. And that we saw briefly, we saw that in season 1. We saw a kick back to before the breaking of the world, and we saw the original dragon and the skyscrapers and the flying things and all that. We saw that.
Yeah.
So remember, the Forsaken have been around for millennia, millions of years, well, thousands of years before the breaking, and before the Dark One was sealed away. So they have powers that the Aes Sedai can't even think of now, don't know how to make a weave of, and this is what kind of that's setting that they're able to do things that other Aes Sedai can't.
Yeah, they can build flying cars, apparently.
Yeah, well, maybe not flying cars, but other
flying on the weave.
Yes, exactly.
The flying car goes where the weave wills.
I can't remember if it was a flying car or if it was something else in the background.
It was very quick. It was a very quick shot, but it was more just that it is like a skyscraper type city, which is different to all of the landscape we've seen so far through the season. Yeah. Good stuff. I've got one quick note, just to come back to Loial. We mentioned him earlier on, but Loial now working for the Shan-Shan. And I just think there was a really interesting moment there with Lady Surath where she tries to treat him like a pet and get him to do tree singing to entertain her guests. And the minute he entertains them too much and they start to revere what Loial is doing, she laughs and claps and decides that he's going to be a gift for her boss, effectively. I love that change in face of Lady Surath as she realizes, oh, this is changing on me. I thought it was just going to be a funny joke to have him perform for us, but now everybody's looking at him like he's something precious. So I'll get rid of him. I just thought that was quite interesting.
And we see as well Loial and the Shannara Ingta plotting to get the Horn of Valere out of the sort of room of curiosities that Turok has sort of gathered together.
Yeah.
And
also
Loial,
planning to free Egwene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, cool.
Excellent stuff. I think that's all for the notes. So, gentlemen, we have spoken. Let us move on to our final wrap-up of this episode. John, what's your final thoughts of episode 6 of The Wheel of Time?
I absolutely thought this was a fantastic episode, probably the best so far of season 2, maybe even of actually all the episodes so far from season 1 and season 2. I would give this 5 dishy ishies out of 5. I just thought the performances here just coalesced into something really, really magical, where in many respects, just the power of them, in particular, with Egwene and Rhaena, and that imprisonment and torture, were just absolutely standout. Very visceral, very powerful, and, you know, sort of captured again through the collaring of Rhymer at the end. I just thought this was really fantastic, and I do feel, you know, Egwene down but not out here. I think there's a little glint of resilience in her eyes still. As I say, akin to sort of playing dead, you know, to think that they have finally broken her. Again, I think the whole aspect around Rand and Lanfear was really good, and how that connected in with Ishamael, and just the different ways of walking through to get them to Falme, you know, the different techniques being used by Ishamael and Lanfear. And while they are divergent in some respects, they're also very much still trying to enact the plan of the Dark One, just in very different ways. I think just, and Moiraine and her sister Annavere, I just thought really fantastic. For me, this was all about performances. And I'm really glad that they went there around Egwene's treatment, because it is really a big part of book 2, and so on. And so I'm glad they didn't decide to skip that element, you know, in terms of adapting these huge number of books. I'm really glad they decided to focus on this, because you do get the sense that it is transformative in many ways for Egwene. So 5 dishy ishies out of 5.
Excellent stuff. Derek, what's your final thoughts for this episode of The Wheel of Time?
I absolutely loved this episode. That was brilliant. I think exactly as John said, there's just so much going on here, but so well handled, and it kind of resting on the shoulders of Egwene here really brings her character back to the fore, where I felt she was kind of in the background for the first 5 episodes of the season. This was a masterclass. This was absolutely brilliant to watch. I know we spoke a little bit about the battle with Rima, mostly to do with the end of it, where she gets the collar put on her. But throughout that battle, I mentioned it at the beginning of the season, how they're handling the weaves this season is so much better than the first season. You can really see the power behind them. And in this battle, you see her twisting the Shen-Shan who are after her into pieces. Yeah. Absolutely taking one after another out, really destroying them, showing how powerful she is. And that contrast of how powerful she is, her losing her warder, her being collared, and Egwene being collared all at the same time, adds even more power to the Shen-Shan and how they are such a big threat to the Aes Sedai and such a big threat to this entire world now that they're here. If this person, Rima, can't get herself out of the situation, what hope are there for our major characters who aren't even trained the way they are? Loved it. I thought this really added so much to the lore of the series. Really, really good. How about yourself, Chris? What's your final thoughts on the episode?
I again echo pretty much everything you guys have said. For me, this is a series and a show that just continuously builds. They're changing enough things for me to be unsure how things are kind of being put together. And I find that so refreshing and fantastic because it's not like a show I've already watched before. So in that I've watched, imagine your second viewing of a show. You already know where things are. You kind of pretty much understand the story beats and it's years in between from watching it. It's years in between, but things are happening out differently slightly. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. I don't know how you're putting these puzzle pieces and I'm enjoying it. Add to that the bloody standout performances from the actors here and just the visuals that they are adding on top and how they are visualizing the power of the one power and the different thing, like the beating of Egwene and the taking of from not saying VFX, that's just like effects, the makeup they're doing. So fascinating how they're like making it look so real. And again, it's just like 20 years ago, you'd never see that. Yeah. And so it's just really fascinating. And then just how they end the stories, how they're ending the episodes and how I'm drawn so much into the next episode. I'm like, give me Friday already, people. Waste away my week so I can just end and wake up and watch another episode. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, looking forward to episode 7. With all that said and done, I've spoken a lot. I need a drink. So let's head on over to our Wheel of Time Tavern for our Wheel of Time Tavern quiz.
Yes, fellow wheelies, fellow quizzers, we are on to question 6. Here we go. What is the name of the prison known as where Egwene is held?
Really had to avoid saying that throughout this podcast.
Yeah. Because it's such a good name for it.
It really is. It really is. It just stresses so much about what is happening to these to the people that are held there. So great stuff. Do you want to get the question one more time, John?
Yeah. What is the name of the prison known as where Egwene is held?
Excellent. All those questions, all 6 of the questions for the Wheel of Time Tavern quiz are available over on our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. Put together the answers to all 8 questions at the end of the season. Email it to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com and you could be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Wheel of Time goodies. Great stuff. Let's pop on over to some feedback from our fellow wheelies. We got an email in from Coffee and Vodka, of course, for this episode, who says, "Greetings, fellow hot-collared defenders. This was easily the most solid of the installments so far, packed with plot, character development, and intrigue. Keeping it to one element, as otherwise this would be a novel rather than an email. The Trial of Egwene is powerful stuff, with her trainer aptly supplying the title of the episode, Eyes Without Pity. Her fight and breaking felt real, down to the psychological trauma, bloodshot eyes, and welts. Madeline Madden, so often overshadowed by the plot and script favouring Zoe's Nynaeve, shined here. I really hope she continues to receive more of the spotlight, and I do not pity her trainer for the whirlwind she hopefully reaps." Yes. Rand, Matt, Loyal, everyone, including the supporting characters, popped with 3-dimensional life. Every step towards the upcoming major confrontation feels epic and dire. So far, they're knocking it out of the park with season 2. Looking forward to both the next episode and next season. Hashtag support the writers. 5 Mother Fuhrers, Sha Mats, and Lan Turns out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka. P.S. Despite, or maybe due to her performance, I kept waiting for her to yell, "There are 4 lights." Anyone else get that vibe? Yes, we did. Coffee and Vodka. Yeah, did. Definitely felt like Patrick Stewart's moment with the Kardashian in Star Trek Next Generation.
Yes, I actually wrote it in my notes as shorthand for what was going on.
Yes, and agree with you. Hashtag support the writers. We need them to get back to work on season 3 and season 4 of this show. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. And I do feel that while she is broken, I hope I correctly identified, the resilience and glint in those bloodshot eyes as well. But it could have just been the blood, of course.
It could have been. It could have been. But I don't think we will leave her this way for long, especially not with friends like Elaine and Nynaeve there, and Loyal, all there to try and help and save her. Yeah. And hey, Rand is trying to get on his way to save her too. So everybody joining together in Falme to try and free Egwene. By the end of the season. Yeah. It sounds like at least it may only be one episode of her being trapped by the Shankan.
Definitely.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. And that's all our feedback for this episode, so we're gonna move on and say we'll be back next week for episode 7 of The Wheel of Time. It's gonna be good.
Penultimate episode next week. Only 2 episodes left in the season. Oof.
There's a lot to do, and I can't wait to see how they do it. We are also covering Ahsoka, if you like to travel to a galaxy far, far away. We just did that this week, and we'll do it again next week as well. And if that's not enough, in the coming weeks, we have Loki Season 2 and the spin-off of The Boys. It's college-based craziness. It is Gen V. Yes, we'll be covering that as well on TV Podcast Industries. So there's a lot coming. Make sure you subscribe by heading on over to tvpodcastindustries.com and joining on the main feed. Each of them will have their own feeds, but just make sure you've subscribed on all of them just to make sure you don't miss each and every episode.
Absolutely.
It's important.
Yeah. Gen V coming out on Prime Video on the 29th of September. So same day, and I believe time, as Wheel of Time comes out. We get the first 3 episodes of Gen V coming out. We still can't talk about it, guys, but we will be able to talk about it from the 29th of September. Yeah. Why are they doing that? Why are they trying to shut down their service and put out 3 episodes of the Boys spin-off on the same day as the penultimate episode for Wheel of Time? Well, seems crazy. They should have held it for 2 weeks. That's all they needed to do.
That's it. I mean, even the Wheel of Time just seems to have flown that we are at the penultimate episode next week. Yeah. It just seems like such a short period of time. It's like, why, dare I say it, do studios or services not want their great work to ruminate throughout the ages?
Well, absolutely. And there's going to be a gap, even though, thankfully, all the unions are talking as we speak right now on the podcast. All the unions are talking. So the strike, strikes may be over by the time we release this episode. But even then, it's been over 100 days since people have been writing shows and projects shut down production. So there's going to be a gap. They probably should have spread the release of some of these shows so we don't feel that gap as badly as we did the last time there was a writer's strike. But hey, at least we have this great work to see us through at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. And if not, you'll be listening to our musings on our musings. We will rate and review and discuss each other's crazy thoughts. That's what our podcast will be about in the future.
Or we'll eventually, finally go back and cover 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on this podcast. There we go. Great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much, and we'll speak to you again next week.
Yes, thank you again, fellow wheelies, for joining us. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and keep freewheeling.
Bye.
Bye.